This is my first time using one of these mics, so I just wanted to double check. So I'm really excited about this panel. Me and Tony came up with the idea together for Women's History Month, and we really wanted to have a conversation, an honest conversation among women, talking about the struggles and the challenges and the way that they've navigated those, and kind of hoping that we could pass on some knowledge to anyone else that may be going through the situation. I'm not generally a public speaker, so forgive me if I fumble or if anyone else does. This is news. And I'm going to introduce everyone. This is Jessica Fortune Barker. She is over the Lift Our Vote campaign that's happening right now, which deals with voter suppression. And what else do you have? She's an entrepreneur also. I'm trying to memorize it. Yes. She's all sorts of things. And this is Joanna White. She is she's the Governmental Affairs Liaison for the Huntsville Area Association of Realtors, which is exciting. And then we have Madison, who is a deaf manager at Atran. Emilie, who is the co-founder and president of Rocket City Digital. And then there's me, and I'm the events manager for Urban Region. Thanks, everybody.
You ready?
Maybe it's,
I can talk loud.
okay. We'll talk loud for now.
He's fixing.
He's fixing it. That's true. Okay. So one of the questions that I really wanted to know, and this really pertains to all women, and I really wanted to ask men this question because you've been working as an engineer for 10 years, in the last 4 at Atran, and considering that STEM is mostly dominated by men, over 60% being them, what has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome as a woman in your field?
Well, first of all, thank you for considering me only working in this field for 10 years. It's more than 10 years. So, I've been professional. My background is computer engineering, so I've been in this field since 2003. And I spent most of my professional career at Atran, and I've been thinking about the problem about the most challenging thing working in this male-dominant field, and I couldn't come up with any. It's not that I don't have any. It's hard for me to pick what is the most challenging. And so, if it's okay with you, Carly, I'd like to turn this to the audience. So how many of you actually work in male-dominant field, STEM field? Yeah, so I'm very interested to know, like, what would you consider the most challenging? Because, I mean, I recognize the challenge. When there isn't any female in R&D leadership, upper management, you don't get to hear women's voice. I recognize the challenge, but that's not my most challenging thing I have to deal with. So I'm interested to know what's yours. Any takers? Go ahead.
Any takers?
Yo.
I haven't done this before. I'm Maya Jackson, student.
Louder. There's a challenge right there. Speak
Oh,
up.
she's loud. Yeah, I'll speak up. So I don't have a job, but I'm in computer science classes at New Century. And the most challenging thing for me is that when I get put in groups or have to do group work or have to answer a question out loud, it's like the people who I'm paired with don't always think that I know the answer, even though I'm like positive about the answer. They still think that I don't know about it. So the most challenging thing is just people seeing me as dumb when I'm really not.
Okay. All right. Thank you for standing up and speaking up. And that's one of the things I think most women engineers have to deal with is when you go out, like when I go see customers, they don't look at you as a technical person. But for me, I just have to find my voice, and I just have to tactfully show them that I'm actually expert in this. Listen to me. And fortunate for me that in my workplace, I have a lot female proponent, like they support women. I have a lot male mentors because I am in male dominant field. I actually have a lot of male mentors, and the first thing I see myself is not female. The first thing I look at myself is a capable, competent engineer. So that's me.
Do you feel like that's helped you? Like just seeing, like taking the woman part out of it and just approaching it as you are a capable, confident person?
It really does. Like, so it's getting saucy. So, I mean, sometimes it's hard not to think when something happened, is that because I'm female? Is that because I'm Chinese? You know, it's hard not to question that. But if something happens every time you go there, that's not going to get you anywhere. And a lot of times, I try to think objectively first. And if I feel like, you know, afterwards I still feel like there's something didn't sit right with me, I'll take it up with that person. I say what I think. Something going up here, it's hard not to, it has to come out. So.
Sometimes I feel like that's just as difficult as it not coming out. I think, which is good because it leads me to my next question, which I'm going to ask Joanna. Have you figured out the line between being assertive and being pushy? Or do you think there is a line? Do you feel like there's a such thing?
I think one is female and one is male, right? So I don't think I've ever heard someone refer to a male as pushy. In fact, I had a vendor at an event once who brought the wrong thing, and I made him go back to the catering kitchen and get the right thing. And he said, "Oh, you're so bossy and pushy." And I said, "If I was a man, you would say I was good at my job." So, for me, I think men lack some of our qualities, a lot of our qualities, but especially when it comes to passion, I've found that men can be reticent to really be passionate about something. If you show you really love something, you show that you have a weakness too. So for me, I think I've luckily had male mentors who embraced my passion, who like the fact that I'll get really jazzed about something or really angry about something and then will assert my position, especially because most of the time I know I'm right. So I think if you think about it as passionate and think that the men in the room are going to be uncomfortable with it at first, but eventually they're going to see the value in it, especially if you're backing it up with hard work. And maybe not think about it as pushy, which is what you're going to be told, especially if you're young like I was in my career, because I just skipped college altogether. So I matured into an adult in the workplace with 4 different generations and mostly men, which is why I think I kind of have a hard skin sometimes now. My husband would say otherwise because I come home crying to him all the time. But I think, you know, I definitely see them as male and female, and assertive is valuable, and when it's paired with that female passion that we just have naturally, men really value that. Whether they show you at first, they eventually will.
Have you noticed a difference in your male versus female mentors?
No, they're all pretty assertive. I think a couple of my male mentors, especially that I had early on, were afraid to assert themselves, almost like they were afraid to be seen as assertive, like angry men. So they let me do the pushing for them sometimes, and sometimes that led to big sales, sometimes it didn't, but they weren't afraid to let me to fail forward with me, and I think that's important. I've also worked with really terrible guys too, so they're out there. Really terrible women are also out there, so how do you just navigate that? I don't know, except to be sure that you're backing everything up with really good work.
Okay.
Does that answer the
I
question?
think, yeah. It answered it for me. Does everyone else feel like it answered it for them? Okay. My next question is for Jessica, because Jessica has been on the podcast before, which is Let Me Tell You Something. And we had a conversation about the crab effect, which is the whole idea of being crabs in a bucket or crabs in a barrel and pulling the other one down, and et cetera. So I just want you to tell your experience of having to deal with that as a woman or a black woman.
So it's very interesting because a lot of people that I've talked to about the crab effect or the crab mentality, they don't even realize what it is. But a lot of black women, if you say the crab effect, we know exactly what you're talking about. So I would explain briefly what the crab effect even is. When you have a crab of buckets and it's full of crabs, and usually you see crabs trying to crawl out of that bucket. And as soon as one starts crawling, the other crabs at the bottom start clawing at him. And it pulls that crab back down. So a lot of sociologists say that that could be a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, but we look at it as a bad thing because what is happening is as you're climbing a success ladder in life, usually your friends who are not excelling at the same rate as you, they see it as a problem. And so as you start climbing, you realize that you're starting to lose friends that you've had maybe for a very long time, or you realize that you're having to change who you associate with because they don't understand your growth and your success. And so we refer to that as the crab in the bucket or the crab mentality. But the sociologists say you can look at that as a positive thing, that as you're growing and climbing out of that bucket, they're not necessarily trying to pull you back down. They're trying to latch onto you in hopes that you can bring them out of the bucket with you. But of course, gravity defies that. Automatically you're going to fall back down because it's more of them pulling at you than it is you going up. So that has been a problem, and it's not just a black experience. We just use that word to describe it. But that is something that I have encountered, and I say the way that you can circumvent experiencing that is by changing your own mindset. I always say you can't control what someone else thinks or does or feels, but you can control how you view the situation. So for myself, as I am growing and excelling and flourishing, I have to keep in mind that they may not be ready for my growth. And so I have to kind of simmer that down. When I'm with that group of friends, maybe we're not going to discuss buying a new house or that I want to go on vacation to Jamaica this year. So maybe I'll just change that conversation and discuss where they are, and have that conversation. So I think that's one way that you can kind of circumvent the crab in the bucket mentality.
Okay. Or just remember that we're all just crabs on the beach.
There you go.
That was
Registered over
I haven't experienced that as much as in my friendships as I have in the workplace. And I don't know about you out there that are my age, so we're that top end of millennials, but I've dealt with it most with women who are a decade older than me, right? And I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but for me it's more that woman-on-woman crime. Nah, girl, you didn't do your work. It's not my fault.
Yes.
Don't throw it on me. Yeah. And so when I hear people older than us, a lot of us here complain about millennials, I'm like, I would hire 100 millennials any day before I'd hire certain other groups, just because that effect is a generational thing. So if you're watching this and you're not a millennial woman and you're working with millennial women, I would encourage you, we are looking for women older than us to boost us and teach us I mean, I'm not as much anymore because I'm kind of doing that now, but especially women younger than me, I think there's a place for women. There's always a place for us. We don't have to make our place anymore, and I feel like that's where some of that women-on-women crime that's kind of multi-generational comes from. So, yeah, if you're watching, like, let's just all, look out for each other, especially if you're like the mom in the workplace. We need you to be cool and stick up for us. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah, I've definitely dealt with that, so I know what that's like.
Emilie knows.
Emily knows. And I was just about to ask her if she's ever been in a situation where she felt like someone, a supervisor, a manager, or a boss was trying to stifle her growth, and how she dealt with that, like what she learned from that, what lesson came out of it.
So let me tell you a little story.
You gotta eat it.
Hello.
There you go.
So a huge reason why Rocket City Digital is what it is today, it stemmed from a boss, and not just a boss, but multiple bosses and multiple situations where you're in the workplace, you do your job, you excel at your job, you take on more tasks than you're required to do, and you're ultimately looking for that assurance of, hey, you're doing a great job, I'm going to give you this because you're doing that, but in most cases that typically doesn't happen, and I finally hit the straw broke the camel's back one day when I was working at a company and I was essentially running the company for somebody else, and I got a less than gracious raise and review. So I walked into one of my best friend's offices and I said, I'm quitting, and if we're gonna start this company, it has to happen today because I'm quitting. Nobody is going to make another dime off of my back and my hard work and my drive ever again. And that's ultimately the culture, the company culture that we've tried to build, is we understand that most workplaces are less than what you really want to show up for. It's almost just a paycheck. And we really strive to provide that culture that when you wake up, you come to work, you love what you do, there are hard days, there are stressful times, but at the end of the day, you want to be there. So ever since, we've been running and adding people to our team, and especially people that still have been in unfortunate situations, and we're just moving and grooving.
How do you make sure that you don't stifle your employees' growth?
That's a really good question. I am very self-aware, and I am lucky enough to have two business partners that are very self-aware as well, to know our strengths and weaknesses, and we have been blessed enough to find each other to where my strengths are my partner's weaknesses and vice versa. And we all have one common goal, and that is to provide a safe, healthy, fun work environment for our employees. I'm sure there are times where we could do better, but we know that, and that's what we strive to improve on, and I think that our team members see that and respect that and appreciate that, and at the end of the day, as long as they're happy, our clients are happy, we're living the dream.
This next question is for May, and what is it? We might have to use Emily's microphone. What do you feel like are 2 to 3 necessary traits or qualities that women need to have to excel in male-dominated fields?
Just two. I don't know necessary for STEM field. I feel like, you know, I'm gonna talk about how I feel, and I'd love to hear what you think. I feel, first of all, you really have to know what your passion is. Like, I can go out there, recruit people or recruit girls and say, come, work on the STEM field. But if they're not interested in STEM field, I don't want to push them to STEM field. So, first of all, you have to love it, and or at least like it, because you end up doing what 1/3 of your time or half of your awake time, and so that's the first thing. And I guess second thing, I'll just say you have to have the courage to pursue what you want. I don't know if that's the trait or qualities just for STEM field woman. I feel like that's for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's for everybody. And I want Jessica to give her opinion on how she thinks advice for younger women to figure out how to discover what their passion is, or find their passion if they don't.
That's a good one. So I say whatever you wake up in the morning yearning to do, whatever you go to bed at night thinking about doing, that is your passion. And I think that highly successful people in life, they find a purpose to meet their passion. So like for me, I love speaking up. I just like talking, you know? So I'm going to speak up for that kid that's getting bullied at school, all the way up to the grandma who can't make it to the polls. That's what I do. I'm going to speak up and speak out. So when I realized that, hey, there's a field for that, I can speak up for people and actually can put my passion to a purpose, and I automatically started seeing doors just swing open, like doors that I never could have even knocked on. Like I'm walking into buildings like, I worked with Hillary Clinton a couple of weeks ago. I coordinated Hillary Clinton coming all the way to Selma, Alabama for the Jubilee a couple of weeks ago. And to pick up the phone and she answered, like that's amazing that I can now call Hillary Clinton. That's cool. You know, so just to make sure that whatever it is that's burning in you, whether it's drawing or music or, you know, whatever it is, if you just find a purpose for it, and someone out there needs what you like to do. And you just have to find that marriage, and I think that's what makes you highly successful.
This next question is for any of the panelists that are moms. I would like to... What lessons are you trying to pass on to your children to make sure that they either don't feed in to what society may be telling them, or don't perpetrate it?
So I have 4 children. My oldest is 14. So she is at that stage of life where she is really testing the waters. My 11-year-old, she came home the other day and was like, Mom, I just feel like I just give into peer pressure. And I'm like, that's a problem. You know, so just making sure, once again, that you find what they're passionate about, what do they really like to do. For instance, my oldest daughter loves music. She's loved music since she was 6. She is now a full-fledged DJ, has her own DJ company. And she now goes to production school because she wants to do productions. So I think that when you just really push them to really follow in what they like to do, and I have a lot of mommies, my kids go to AAA, to Academy for Academics and Arts. Yay! My child's there too. But I know there are a lot of parents like outside of our school culture that don't really understand us letting our children explore what they like to do at this age, and I kind of get shunned in mommy groups like, you don't tell your kids what to do, you're not, you know, and no, I'm not that stiff mom. I kind of let them just live life, and I think that for them it's working out because they're making great grades. They are each exploring what kind of business they want to own already. So I think, you know, just letting them kind of be free and live.
I think that I need my kids to know, I have 4, as well, know that like the world doesn't revolve around them or us, and so it's important for Nola, my 9-year-old daughter, especially. She knows that she is extremely important to me, but that my husband is the most important thing, and our faith is very important, and my friends are so important. So I think just kind of seeing that you can do all these things and balance them and make a difference, that's important for me, for her to see. And that she knows, okay, sometimes I have to sit through a 2-hour meeting with my mom. She's homeschooled, so she gets to go everywhere with me for the most part. Sometimes that means she gets to go sit in the mayor's office for an hour, which is cool. A lot of kids don't get to do that. So I'm hoping she has that balance of like, oh, I have a neat, privileged, weird life with my weird mom and dad, but also this world doesn't revolve around me, so how can I contribute, step up and make part of it mine, and make a difference in it, I guess. That's the biggest thing for me, is that they find a way to make a difference. If they can channel that passion into something that you know, is making an impact in that field, then that means I've done my job. And compassion being a big part of that, because they know they're not the only thing, right? I feel like our generation kind of suffers from a lot of people who are the only thing in their mom's lives, literally the only thing. And a lot of us, not me, because my mom is amazing and did not do that, but I think there's a lot of therapists making a lot of money right now because of that. So it's just important to have balance, and hopefully that's what my kids see, even though we live an insane, like all over the place, very productive life.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Joanna was saying is, I want to make sure that my son, I don't have 4 kids. And that is enough right now. But just that, to show him that life isn't fair, so people telling you that life has to be fair, life has to be equal, that's not true, and that will never be the case. You put in the hard work, you put in the dedication, and with me having a startup, our business will be 2 years old next month. The time, but the time, the dedication, and him being in the office, some days he was there for 30 minutes, some days he was there for 5 or 6 hours, 7 hours, to show him that I'm putting in this hard work because it will ultimately pay off for our future. But you have to put in the hard work on the front end, and I mean throughout the whole process. But him seeing that hard work at a young age, because he's 3 and not fully understanding yet, will hopefully instill that work ethic and that understanding of, if you don't put in that hard work, it's not going to pay off.
Also, I think it's real important that our girls especially see us kick ass. And I try to be really good about celebrating my friends' accomplishments in front of them. Even so much, I know she's 9, but I'm like, Nola, look at Instagram today. Oh my gosh, look what Lauren did. Look what Nadia did. Look what Victoria did. You know, like, how can I celebrate my friends and their accomplishments, whether it's in life, it's whatever, in front of her, so that she does that too. So hopefully the woman-on-woman thing, that like infighting, she's already built to celebrate instead of tear down. But and also to go, oh, my mom, you know, kicked ass when I was growing up, so I can too. Yeah, so I have to. That's even better than that.
Do you guys ever feel yourself perpetuating the woman-on-woman grind and then have to step back? Do you ever feel the crabbiness coming, or is it?
Of course, we're women.
Yeah, once a month that happens.
Oh my!
I think everybody did.
You gotta reel it back in.
I think when you're young, like I can think about times early in my career when I was working in a business place, you know, a business place. I was working in a business place that had 52 employees, and I think 8 of us were women. And honestly, I should have looked, when I was being hired there, I should have kind of read the place, because not one of those women stood up and introduced themselves. I should have read the room, I guess is what I'm saying, because I endured 20 months of like torture from the women, not as much as the guys were not the best because they were like, you know, production guys who were groupies and techies on the road with bands. So they're already just hard, and once I broke through that, that was easy. But there was a lot, it was just a really challenging environment, and I committed women on women crime. But it taught me a lot about my next workplace and the workplace after that and the workplace after that. I think we're constantly growing when it comes to that, hopefully. I love where I work now. I have 2 separate clients, and those workplaces when it comes to women are just incredible places to be. And so I'm wondering if it's me, like I finally matured enough in the last 5 years, but I think it's that women are getting better in general too when it comes to the workplace. I'm gonna stop talking. So, can you hear me okay? I haven't experienced a woman-on-woman crime.
Yay! We're like, wow.
I have a group of amazing friends, not just women. I actually have a group of people at work. Actually, like you at work, in a lot of guys that work around you, you're gonna go through a lot of questions and challenges. You start thinking, is it me? Is it really me? Yeah. And I have a lot of good friends and pointed out, May, you're doing great. I have a lot of guy friends point out, May, don't take that crap. All right. So I get both sides of voices, and that helped me a lot. And I just think find your tribe, find your support group is so important. And that's what got me through all the different challenges, and that's what got me here today. It's because of I have my support system. So I'm not a mom, but I do want to give a shout out to the stay-home moms out there. You guys are kicking ass too, all right? I have friends actually just stay-home moms. 4 kids is hard, and just by having 4, kicking ass.
Did you?
Yes. So, and I think maturity and growth does play a big role in, once again, your mind frame, because I realized that myself, I used to look at women like, why'd she get that opportunity? Why not me? I was just as qualified as her, and then sometimes you would start talking to your friends about it. So-and-so got that job, and I don't know why, and can you believe she got that, And so I started finding myself doing that often, and then once again, you have to just change your mindset. So instead of now me saying, why did she get that, I look at myself. What did I not do? Why did I not get it? And what can I do better so that next time around, I'm going to be that chick. Like, I'm in there, So I kind of gear myself towards working more so in the affirmative now, and not focusing so much on what could be or what was, and try to focus more so on what if and how can I get there.
Have you ever dealt with a woman-on-woman crime and you approached the person about it and maybe tried to change their mindset, or?
Yeah, girl, I love confrontation. If you know me, you can ask Christina. We love confrontation. She's one of my best friends, and we're like, hey. So, yeah, I think it's really important to do that, and that's probably why I don't think I'm somebody who's committing a lot of woman-on-woman crime anymore. Maybe it's because I'm real happy, so I think it does. When you kind of live in the negative, you tend to do that more. But I think it is so important to deal with those things because they fester. And the only way to stay positive and live in the affirmative is to not let those things stay under the surface. It's very important to remember as women that if you know Dr. Jenny Robinson, she's one of my favorite people in the world. She's our District 3 council person on the city council. She has a sign in her office that says, "You cannot please everyone, you are not pizza." And I think about that every day it's very important as women to not worry as much about being liked as we are worried about being respected. And so I try to live in that, world. You don't have to like me. A lot of people don't like me because I'm kind of a lot, and that's okay. No, I think everybody likes me, actually. But I think, I can be a little extra, and so, I just have to make sure that I'm doing things that earn me the respect that I will need to move forward or whatever. But if you can get rid of the being liked piece, a lot of that woman-on-woman crime goes away because you just don't care. I'm sorry you don't like me, but could you give me the work I need so I can give you work back and we can move forward? So it's the respect piece to me is a lot more important.
Yeah, I have a personal experience. So I want to be liked. I admit I want to be liked. And as in my new role, I actually talked to someone that is in upper management. I'm struggling to get over the part that I'm being overshadowed and voice not being heard. And so that VP told me, you have to get over that and show them your value, and your voice will be heard, and you'll be respected, although it may not be well liked, but you'll be respected, and that's where your value is. So find out.
I think that all of you have already given a lot of helpful information, but I would like each of you to just one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self.
I have a really good one because I just gave this to one of our employees. We were all sitting around and people were stressing out. What we do from day to day, what you start in the morning is hopefully what you get back to at the end of the day, but in between time you're doing 5,000 other things. And with what we do, our work is always critiqued. So if somebody comes back at you and says that they don't like what you did, or it should have been done faster, or you miss a deadline and then you get the heat back from that, I told her that you need to become numb inside. Not in the sense of not being emotional, not caring. It's business is business, and business owners see business differently than you do personally. They might not like what you did the first time, but you don't want to give them the same product the second time because then you're really going to get ripped. But with that advice, it means you can't take everything personally when it comes to business. And if you start to take things personally or keep taking things personally, number one, your work product isn't going to be up to par. Number two, you're always going to worry about being liked when it's not personal. And number three, you can't sustain all of that negativity without it affecting your work, your personal, and then it's just a vicious cycle. So I would say if you can become numb inside in the sense of not caring if you're liked, and understand that people make decisions based off business most of the time, hopefully, if they're good decisions, versus it being an emotional standpoint, you can do your job better and more efficiently versus the latter.
I would say find your tribe, find your support group. It helps.
We're arguing over who's gonna go next. You go. So for me, what I would tell my younger self is what I tell my kids now, and it's one of my favorite sayings, which is the law of energy. Energy is not created nor destroyed; it is just merely transferred from one object to the next. So I think that when you keep that in mind when it comes to your professional relationships, your personal relationships, that it's whatever you put out there is usually what you're going to receive in the universe. So just make sure that whatever you do in life, that you are doing it for the good of not just yourself, but for the good of those around you, because then good will come back to you. So that is some advice. I could have skipped a lot of things in life if I would have known that a long time ago, and I wasn't being so crabby back in the day.
Are you writing a book?
I don't add that to my list of things to do.
Oh man, I got really excited. I thought you were serious. I was like, oh. So I would, this is gonna sound weird, but I would probably tell my younger self to like stop and eat, you know? Like take a minute. Nothing is as dramatic as you think. Nothing is as dramatic as you think it is. You can stop and eat. When Jeff and I first started dating, he would constantly be like, did you eat? Especially when I was in a spiral or crabbing out, he'd be like, have you eaten? And I'd be like, no, I'm Betty White or whatever in that commercial, yeah. So I think that's probably what I would tell my younger self, like you're working really hard, don't not work the way you're working. Because I honestly made a lot of right decisions or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So I wouldn't be married to an awesome dude with awesome kids and awesome friends and with awesome shoes. But I think there is a time when you have to just stop and take time for yourself. Sometimes that means shoving a peanut butter and honey sandwich in your mouth really fast. Sometimes it means taking a mental break, seeing a therapist, admitting you need help, going to church, reading a book, listening to some Jason Isbell, whatever. So for me, it would just be eat a sandwich and then read Jessica's book.
That's a good motto. I think I'm gonna put that on my Instagram. Stop and eat.
I would be honored.
Okay.
Just give her credit, please.
No. Okay, so this is a question that I wanted to ask, like a really just a fun question, because I'm always interested in this, and then we're gonna do a Q&A if anybody has questions. But so when I'm having like a really blah day, I like to get motivated to do anything productive. I like to listen to Beyonce, right? Beyonce always, she always gets me ready. So like
Tommy Battle does not know this, so no one tell him. But when I was coordinating the BattleWorks campaign, his last mayoral re-election campaign, which we won by the largest landslide in Huntsville history, I listened to nothing but Lemonade that entire summer. I would get in the car, like driving to meet him, and listen to nothing, literally nothing but Lemonade. So I feel you, and yes to that. I am in that formation.
I just want to know if you guys have anything else that you listen to that get you like excited or motivated.
I don't think so. I mean, in our office, we do a lot of slow claps, so that gets everybody pretty pumped. It's not very good for our neighbors, but that's their problem, not ours, because we stay jacked all day, so I would say all of our office slow claps.
I love that.
Does everyone know what slow claps are? Is that?
We're going to do it now. We're going to start doing that.
Everybody's jacked.
I'm listening to a lot of Mumford & Sons right now. That's an inside joke.
I like Tank and the Bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah! See, a lot of people don't really know a lot about them. They are a really quirky, eclectic group from New Orleans, but they're high energy. They kind of mix funk and rock and roll, like it's like a mesh of music, and it just, whether it's slow or fast, you're just like, yes, I'm gonna take over the world today. This is the day. So yeah, Tank and the Bangers for me.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I've never heard of them.
Really?
Yeah,
They're
I'm gonna
awesome.
check that out. Do you have anything, May, or do you want to?
Spotify. So I'm not as cool as those awesome ladies. I don't know what slow clap song. I didn't know what that was. I was hoping you just break out on binge just so no Spotify. I was joking about Mumford and Sons. Lizzo, if you haven't listened to Lizzo, and that's like all I listen to right now is Lizzo. It's so good. And then we have a local Spotify channel that's all Huntsville local music. Victoria's on there. Quantaphonics, if you haven't listened to the Quantaphonics. Josh and Judy Allison. I could go on and on. Rob Aldridge. I mean, everybody's on there. So I think, I don't know, Judy and Josh Allison probably have it on their Facebook page. Maybe I'll share it on mine. But sometimes when all I do is nerd out about Huntsville all day, I feel like. So when I really need to get motivated to work on some of the more difficult projects I'm working on right now, I have to turn that on just to keep me focused on Huntsville and why we're here. Does that make sense? Yes. And Lizzo.
Okay, well that's it for my questions. So now we're going to let you guys ask any questions if you have any for any of these ladies up here. Oh.
So every entrepreneur has had that time where you're about to hit payroll, it seems like things are just not going to happen. Obviously y'all made it, you're still here. So what are like one of y'all's stories of like that time frame in which it looked like things were just about to go down and then kind of just
Well, it has been like. I do own a business management and consulting firm. So I have probably, at any given time, I can have anywhere between 5 to 30 employees depending on how many projects we have. When my projects are starting to look like, oh God, I only have 2 clients, I'm down to 2 clients, what are we gonna do? I think that is when you go back into your network. Power of networking. So when I start seeing my clients are falling off, I start amping up the events that I'm at and who I'm talking to, and I'm on the City of Huntsville website looking at the events and what's happening, and I'm downtown, I'm at the chamber, just to make sure that I'm constantly meeting people and I'm staying current and I'm staying engaging, because I never ever walk away without a new potential client. Yes.
I'm actually not an entrepreneur. I just hopefully support them well. My husband is. So, we've been there as a family because he's an entrepreneur. And I will say, when I had a 10-year career in large-scale community event planning. I directed paneling and concerts in the park, and when you walk around holding a purple cup, you can find me later and pat me on the back because I was part of the team that did that, and Spaces Sculpture Trail, and I could go on with these projects that I worked behind the scenes on. I was very passionate about, and then I just quit because I had a kid, and I've always wanted to be in politics ever since I was little, but I skipped college and just went straight into the arts world and made my way there. Luckily, Huntsville's a small pond, and if you do well at anything, you become a big fish pretty quick. So because of my work with Panoply especially, I had to know everybody on the political scene, and literally the day that I walked out the door for the last time at Arts Huntsville, which is the best place to work, as I walked out the door and retired, thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna plan weddings for fun, which I do still. I'm gonna help my artist friends launch businesses, whatever. That was the day that I got the call to go into politics, and now I'm sitting here talking to you, lovely people. So I think sometimes maybe things are ending for a reason. Like maybe are you looking at the whole spectrum of things? I know with Jeff, we've often talked about, okay, wait, let's stop and collaborate and listen a little. That's really what it's about. So how can we stop and make sure that we're still doing what our mission is, our personal mission, and then stay true to that, because maybe whatever our business is drifted into isn't true to that anymore. So I would be sure that when that's happening, there's a good examination. I tell that to my friends who are in the nonprofit world too. I'm like, okay, why is this happening? You're running out of money. We need to really examine. Did you mission creep and you spent everything and now you're done? Well, let's, collaborate. Find that network
and then listen. It's a real thing. So I guess is that right, Jeff? Is it pretty? Not that I'm looking to my husband for approval.
Not that you would take it.
Typical woman.
I know for us, as a startup, in next month it'll be our second year in business. We have definitely had those months where you had to choose between yourself getting paid or your employees getting paid. So in those moments, you really have to dig deep and know that what you're doing is the right thing and you're in the right place at the right time and you believe in what you're doing. Because there are some months where it's tight and the people you brought on, the people that you're protecting, they get paid first. Sometimes you don't get paid. And entrepreneurship is not pretty by any means, and I think that is a misconception that needs to be addressed because we're in a great environment where entrepreneurship is praised and you should start a business because the economy is so great. Well, you should only start a business if you're willing to not get paid for a year, 2 years, 3 years. If you're willing to bring on people and put their needs and their family before your own. And those are the tough choices that you have to make. And those are realistic choices that you have to make and decisions you have to make as an entrepreneur and as a startup. So you really have to believe in what you're doing because there are more sacrifices in the beginning than there are perks. So.
Any other questions? Okay.
So yeah, it's really a question for all of you guys. I know that like it's wisdom to know the difference between complacency but also contentment. But so just going to the place of contentment, how do you balance that's mine / actually this is my lane and this is where I need to be content. So that's so much.
Just for anybody that may not have heard, her question was, how do you balance staying in your lane, or is this your lane, or venturing out, right? Not becoming complacent, not being.
Or you know how like, well, I can talk to everybody. So I can just talk to everybody. But like you were just talking about how like you can look at somebody in a position that you want, and you're like, that's mine. In reality, that may not have been your destiny. How do you balance the knowing of that? Like, okay, that's what I wanted, but this is where I am and this is where I'm meant to be. How do y'all balance that?
I think ultimately it's being self-aware. And I've talked to the women about my journey in the jobs and the careers that I've gone after. I've always felt in the pit of my stomach that I'm wasting my time. I need to do more. I need to be a bigger part of something. And I have always felt that way until I started RCD, and I don't feel that way anymore. I know that I am in the right place at the right time with the right people, and we're going to be a part of something bigger in Huntsville. And it took a while to get there, and did I know when all the pieces fell into place that was it? No. But I believed in what I ultimately was doing, and you meet people that feel the same way, and it just builds off of that deep down in your stomach feeling of, I know I need to be doing more. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet, but once you get there, you'll know. You won't have that feeling anymore. And then when you think about it again, you're like, I haven't had that feeling in a while. Well, this is why. But you have to be okay with not knowing when that's going to come, and just understand that your hard work that you put in is going to get you there.
So I'll say something really quick. I just went through that. And when they tried to promote me just recently, and I'm sitting there and say, but they are all men. So the group of people that now is reporting to me, some of them a lot older than me, and some of them like former managers, right? So I'm sitting there and thinking, okay, me. And again, my male mentors actually told me, well, you know, other women has done that before. Not all technical per se, but that's the thing is you constantly, what is it?
It's dead now.
Oh, we got it.
With Joanna's gorgeous shoes. Thank you. So, where we're at. Alright, so the part that I asked myself, a lot of people start asking me, what do you want to do, May? Like, all the way from top, they asking me, what do you want to do? So, it took me a long time to figure it out, but someone pointed out, you get a moment of bliss. So there's a moment you feel like maybe that's it. You don't know completely exactly what that is, but just that moment, maybe that was it. So that moment happened to me, and then I said, I want to try it. So what? If I fail, you know, I can find something else, but I want to try it. So let's just go do this.
I know my advice would be you have to be real specific with your goals. So when you are very specific, like down to the wire specific with what you want to do, what do you want your life to look like, you know, it kind of eliminates room for anything else outside of that path that you're trying to set yourself on. For instance, I just got a job offer to be the chief operating officer for a company in New York. Well, I know I don't like the cold weather, so I turned that down. Yes, it probably would have put me at a nice salary, you know, and it would have put me in a whole nother level in politics, but I know that I just don't want to live in the cold weather, so I abruptly was like, no, I'm going to have to pass on that offer, you know. So when you're very specific with your goals like that, it kind of will help you stay on path to what is supposed to be for you, and it'll just keep you focused.
Okay, we're gonna take one more question, and does anyone have another one, and then we're gonna close it out.
I'll be the last question.
Okay.
Oh, do I have to stand up? Okay.
Yes.
I would say it was probably 10 years into my career before I learned how to say no. And that changed my career trajectory. Is there Emilie, you already talked about saying no, and I basically had the same kind of a thing. I thought I was so fired, and they promoted me. But
Yeah, but you're a dude. I'd like to know.
I am. And what I'm wondering, is that different for you? You know, I'm a guy. Do you think it's different for me, and how does that play in office? You know, do you think guys look at you different when you say no than they would look at another guy if he says no? I'm just, part of it's curiosity, and then, yeah.
When I was younger, before I grew up here, yes.
Okay.
Right. So I wouldn't say no probably with enough gumption, and was often weak in my no and would end up saying yes. So I think as long as you're firm in your no, they've got to respect that, and that goes back to, you know, what are you doing to earn that respect? Are you doing the hard work? Are you dependable? Are you there before everybody else? Like, all those things that people look for in a good coworker, a good teammate. Are you doing those things? Then they'll respect your no. So now I say no all the time. Yeah, and sometimes I think I end up, you know, kind of like the light on the front of a boat. Like, no, we're going this way, we're going this way. You know, it's fun to say no to people in power when you have a good reason, because later they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying no, or for saying no. In my personal life, I kind of developed my personal mission, what I'm on a mission to do, and my non-negotiables. That makes it easier to say no when I got 12 requests this year to be on different boards. I'm on 3 boards, that is enough boards, right? But those are 3 boards I'm very passionate about. They fit with my personal mission. They fit with what I think my 5, 10, 15-year goals are, career and personal life-wise. So when it comes to saying no that way, and figuring out what to say yes or no to, as a woman, we struggle with that, because we want to say yes to everything and help everyone. So I do think it's important to develop that personal mission so you know whether to say no or yes. When somebody approaches you about something in the workplace, though, you just gotta have the, put on your big girl panties, say no when it's time. But he's a man. That's another conversation. Maybe right along.
Well, actually, I have a question. What do you mean by saying no to? Like, could you give an example?
The people that do a lot of work generally are given more work to do. And as a manager now, I have to be aware that I'm pushing somebody too hard. And sometimes it's difficult to tell. Everybody's got their own personality, and am I being too, what's the right, assertive? Is that the right word? Or am I, it's hard sometimes to figure out, because you don't want to burn somebody out. But as a person doing the job, you need to be able to speak up and say no, and have a reason, and there's got to be that respect there. But I was working 80-hour weeks doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and I said, this is insane.
So you say you're a manager, right?
Yes.
So would it be any different if I say no to, hey, May, you got to stay until 8 o'clock, get this done, and I said no? Is it going to be different if Jeff and say, hey, no, I'm not going to stay there? Like, is it going to make difference to you?
To me, no. Especially if we've worked, we've had the same working relationship, the same amount of respect, and that type of thing. The question is it harder? Do you think it would be harder for you to say no than for Jeff to say no?
I said not anymore, because I said no to all the way up sometimes, and the reason I said not anymore because I built a relationship with them. I have rapport with them. So that's different, and they understand why I say no. I have reason to back it up. And when other people, when they don't know them as well, or they don't have a relationship with them, I don't know if it's the same situation or feel the same way. I would say differently. So.
Yeah, I think just building off of what May is saying, in positions of being a manager, an owner, a boss, whatever that looks like, you understand who your A players are, your B players are, your C players are, because you have to have all of them. So if one of your A players is telling you no for something, you know it's for a purpose. And that's when it goes back to what is your managing style, how do you motivate people from your A team to your C team, because at the end of the day, they're all still your team, and you have to figure out the inner workings of them and their capacity of what they can handle and what they can't handle, and how that fits into your actual business. But as a woman saying no, I don't have a problem saying no.
Yeah, we may not be the right audience.
You want to? Sure. I know with one of my past clients, we had that situation where he was paying, I was running his payroll, mind you, so I knew what everyone was getting paid, but he was paying a guy that was cleaning up like double what he was paying me, and I'm running your everything, and so it got to a point, like, when he started calling me, I just had to start telling him, hey, no, I'm not going to work 7 days a week for this meager check while you have this guy here who is coming in for maybe 2 hours, doing a little bit of dusting, and he's getting paid almost double, like, that's not even fair, so I think, and it kind of rubbed him the wrong way, and he's not a client anymore. So, you know, and that's fine because I'm not going to be your pushover either, you know. And I think God is always in the blessing business because as soon as that relationship severed, I picked up a very similar contract making almost 3 times as much. So, you know, sometimes your no may look like doom at first, but it can turn into your victory.
Okay, that was good. That was a good one to close out on. So we're going to end it there, and thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to our panelists. And I feel like all of the information will help anyone who's having a difficult time or any young person struggling with how to handle different situations, get through them. So thank you guys.
Yay, Carly!
Oh, yeah,
Can we give out our social media information so that we can connect?
Absolutely.
In case anyone wants to follow. So you can follow me. You can follow me on Instagram at the Mrs. J. Barker. All one word. The Mrs. MRS.J. Barker. You can follow me on Facebook too, but I'm at my friend limit, so it's easier to get me on Instagram.
Friend limit.
That's
right. Verified. You can just look Joanna White up and you'll be able to find me on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My individuality, which I've had since MySpace days.
That's right.
Individuality, but it's Joe in the middle. So find me, follow me, yay.
All the nights. Thanks. Well, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook, May Chen, and I will be speaking at We Rock It.
You can find me at Emilie Dover, Emilie Dover, or you can just follow us. Our business page is at Rocket City Digital on all platforms.
I also tagged all 3 of their Instagrams on the Urban Engine story. Urban Engine, and they're tagged on there. Find them there.
And now we're going to give away the ticket for the We Rock It conference for everyone that entered, that came in.
So here, you want to draw it?
Oh, I have my hands are I literally can't draw
So for those of you who don't know, we've got We Rock It. It's a new tech conference that's coming up in about 4 or 5 weeks from now, May 3rd and 4th. We're a diversity conference, so our focus is on showcasing women and underrepresented groups in tech as speakers. And so it's a 2-day event. It's going to be at AdTran, which is May's company. They've so generously donated their space, and so we'd love for you guys to come out. And it looks like Phil Boarding is going
Every time I do something with her,